All right, y'all, this is our take. This is Mark the moderator.
Avery the process, Bergen all day, every day.
Yo, just like Grover Washington said, it's just the two of us there tonight, dog. So we're going to hold this down. We got this. All right, so we're going to have some basketball talk, of course. And of course, we got to get into the hot topic that everyone's talking about. Russell Westbrook traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. What is your take, Abe? Where do you sit at with this trade?
I think, listen, I cheer guys like Russell, guys like CP3. Those are guys that, to me, in my opinion, I've always cheered for to be successful, right? Melo, I've cheered for Melo to be successful. They are in that I want these guys to win category. Russell is in that I want these guys to win category. I think LeBron is a perfect fit for Russell Westbrook, being that Russell doesn't have to do too much. And I think he'll balance out his game a little bit, in my opinion. You know, I know the conversation is always Russell plays at a high speed, turns the ball over, whatever the case is. You know, that's the narrative. It's also this narrative going around that he's not a good teammate or whatever the case is. But the reality is that the best player, you know, on the planet in the last decade or so said, yo, I have no problem putting him on my team. So, yo, I think this is a great look for Russell. I think it's a great look for the Lakers. You know, recent news, they clipped up and got a couple more guys in the past 24 hours. I don't know how they rounded out that roster.
I don't know how they did it either. I don't know how. There's no salary cap.
Yo, listen, that tells you a lot, man, that guys take pay cuts to go over there. But, you know, for I have to ask this question because I didn't really even, you know, we talk about Russell playing for the Lakers. Who did they trade him for? Like, who did they trade over there? I know Kuzma was one,
Kuzma,
right?
Harold, and KCP, and number 22 draft pick.
Wow. We can argue they gave up a lot for him. We can argue that.
Well, actually, no. What I'm going to say is, if you look at how the numbers bear out, you got you got one player that fills the box score of three players. Rebounding, assists, and scoring. You know Harold was a rebounder. You know that Kuzma, we don't know what the hell Kuzma was. And then KCP, now he's the shooter, which they lost a shooter, but they gained, but they picked up two more shooters. They got Melo, they got Monk. So, and then after that, now this actually frees up space for Horton there to play more also, which is another thing. So it's going to be interesting. My thing I think there's a lot of fodder that's around Russell Westbrook, and I think people don't really. I mean, they go with the headlines and try to make things saucy, but when you really think about it, it's been put out there. Paul George had his best season playing with Russell Westbrook. He was in the MVP conversation. Absolutely. Playing with Russell Westbrook. Also, if you know, people say, he's not going to want to take a back seat. If you look at that situation, Russ took a back seat to Paul George. Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook are close friends. Another piece of this puzzle. And then also, they question, can he play off the ball? If you watched the Wizard last year, guess what? Ish Smith came in and Russ played off the ball. So
that's going to be interesting. I think, you know, this is more of now because you can mix and match Russ. I think Russ can play anywhere on the court as far as, you know, being in the backcourt. I think what's more important now is, and I think what's going to be the story is, obviously, the jump shot is going to be a story, right? So you got LeBron, who's an okay jump shooter. Then you got, you know, Russell, who is a suspect jump shooter. You know what I mean?
He's not a jump shooter.
So you got both of those guys, you know, on the court at the same time. It's going to be very interesting to see how they brush off on one another. But I think, obviously, in any case, like I've always said, playing with LeBron is always the ultimate elixir. Like, it's just the ultimate. He breeds this kind of thing to me.
See, what I'm going to say, listen, I really got to push back on that is this. The younger LeBron, yes. The older LeBron, if you notice something, like last year, we could take last year. Schroeder didn't do well. Kuzma has not played up to any expectations. You look at Drummond came in there, and Drummond looked like a shell of himself. I don't see again, I think as players age, I think now to help the Lakers, it would be smart if LeBron took the D Wade Miami Heat role and passed the team off to Anthony Davis and let Anthony Davis be the leader. Let him control things, because I think the other two guys is pieces, and Russell Westbrook can go. You know that.
Right.
But at the same time, when it gets into the playoffs of a half-court game, the ball got to start with AD. That's where you get the hardest matchup, because nobody can match up with him straight up.
But see, you're right. I think so. What you're trying to say essentially is that the offense has to run through AD, right? So now, I mean, and I know we'll probably delve into it or whatever the case is, but now you're talking about Russell, right? You're talking about, and I don't know if we're talking about this as strong lineup, but you're talking about AD, you're talking about LeBron, you're talking about Russell, you're talking about they picked up they still got THJ, right? Horton Tucker, THT, whatever his name is, right? And now you got Melo as well.
Got Melo now, and that spreads the floor.
Yeah, I think obviously they're gonna be looking, and they got Dwight back.
They got Dwight back.
You gotta. I wouldn't call Dwight a legit big, right? But I call him a decent big in that lineup, right? You have a whole bunch of guys that have veteran leadership. So now my whole thing, again, Marquise Morris just signed with the Heat. My whole thing is now we have all of these guys veterans now. I just want to know how you're going to balance that. That's my thing, man.
Well, what I will say from a standing back point of view, pace to play. You can run at different paces now, because when you think about it, when you have a Horton, when you have a Monk, you have a Howard, you got a Westbrook, you can run a little more. Right. When you got Melo, because I think Melo's going to start. Put Davis there at the 5. So now what you're looking at right now is that's when you really got to pace this offense. But
so you think AD gonna go back to playing the 5?
He's gonna have to, kid.
Because AD, that was his riff. AD didn't want to play the 5.
But I think with this squad here, because you and I know,
Howard, you
can't start Marc Gasol. That's who you can't start. Marc Gasol, you cannot start, man, because he's gonna slow everything down. But the one thing is, but now what you have a penetrator. You got a guy who can penetrate, who can create for his own shot. He can get to the basket. He can pass. LeBron can play off the ball. So now you really got a tandem there that can work. And then you got to worry about AD at the same time, and he can step out.
We got point guard by committee.
That's what you're going to have. That's what you're going to have. And wait, hold on. They also got Kendrick Nunn. That's your backup now. That's an upgrade. Going from Russo, you got a Kendrick Nunn. So I'm like, yo, this team is not bad at all. They really structured something. But the question that I have for you, what I'm going to ask you is this: the knock against Westbrook. Do you think the knocks are going to show themselves on this team with a LeBron? This is the best player that he's ever played with.
Well,
no. Durant was the best player that he had played with. Right? No. Up until this point, to me, LeBron is the best player that he's ever played with at this point.
So here's the thing. So now, I'm a data guy, as you know, and I just got to go with the data, right? So the data suggests, yes, Paul George may have had one of his better years, perhaps playing with Russell Westbrook. That's undeniable. But when we start talking about the outcomes of that, it's like KD left him, right? Then you got Harden that pretty much left him, right? The Wizards gave him up quick after 1 year. I feel like there was no sample size to go off of. They didn't really have a great team. Should they have made the playoffs? I think we argued that a little bit.
They did make the playoffs.
Oh yeah, so there you go. Oh yeah, we beat them. Duh. You know what I'm saying? So there we go. There you have it. So I think what we're looking at now with Russell is the results. So I think there's this idea, and again, the narrative that's creative is that you can't win with Russ, right? You can't win with him as your point guard. I don't necessarily think that that's true. I think that he has some drawbacks, but as you said, and as we talk about now, when you start getting into your elder statesman years, yo, you got to be okay with being the third guy. You got to be okay with being the fourth guy. You got to be okay with saying, yo, I'm not that guy no more, just like you just said about LeBron. LeBron got to be okay with saying AD is the guy. You know what I'm saying? So I think LeBron sat down this offseason, the few weeks we've had, and had a real heart-to-heart with himself and say, yo, listen, this is what we need. We need some guys that can come in that have been perennial all-stars or whatever the case is, and we need guys to play a role at those levels. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think what you're saying that, I think more than anything, I think the front office sits back and look and said, this season we had a 1-2 punch, but we didn't have a 1-2-3 punch. Now you got the 1-2-3 punch. Because if you notice something, when they was in games, you used to have to question who is going to be the third scorer, who's going to be the third guy. Now, legitimately, you know, each night one of these guys is going to be the third guy.
100%.
You know,
100%.
It's just getting comfortable in that role.
And you can afford now and this is the beauty of what we call, because we spoke about this last week about super teams. Like, yo, you gotta have 3 guys. This is the league right now. You gotta have 3 guys.
Gotta have 3 guys.
At least 3 solid guys. And yo, people are gonna say, well, look at the Bucks. The Bucks have 3 solid guys. I mean, we could argue that they're not all superstars, but they're 3 solid guys. So however you slice it. So I think looking at it now into the future, I think we're talking about, yo, you got 3 solid guys and you got 4 solid players behind them. You know what I'm saying? You got Melo, you got Trevor Ariza. You know,
I ain't gonna count Trevor Ariza is not gonna get minutes. He's gonna get garbage minutes.
Yeah, but when you
leadership,
about Trevor Ariza coming off the bench, providing leadership, that's what gets you championship.
That's gonna be paramount. But also, I think what you're saying, what you just said, if you go back and look and you think about it, the Suns was missing a third person. Because that's what happened in the series, is that they didn't have that third scorer. And the night that Bridges went off, he helped them win. Bridges don't go off. There's no Ayton you can't count on. So there's no third piece. And I think what you're saying is really, really real, is that the Lakers now have a third piece to this puzzle. And now it's going to be interesting. And then knowing that the Clippers don't have Leonard. He's not going to be back. So, I mean,
how
the
long
West,
is he going to be out for?
Money, he got an ACL injury. So that's a year. Yeah. Wow. So I mean, Dallas didn't get better. So it's Denver didn't really get better. Denver looks the insane, really, just for a couple of changes. Overall, it's going to be interesting to see how this West is going to shape out. The Warriors didn't get better.
Yeah, but it's and again, you know how I feel. Like, yo, you start assembling teams like this. Yo, it's chip or bust, man. I said it.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
And at this point, and it goes back to what I was saying. That's what I mean. Like, yo, everybody says, well, getting hurt. I know getting hurt becomes all right, boom, somebody got hurt. But yo, you ain't got years to waste. That's a year wasted if a guy gets hurt. You know what I'm saying? We automatically assume a guy comes back full strength, same play. That don't always work like, especially when you're in your 30s. All of those guys we just named now are in the twilight of their career. If not, we could argue over the hill. You know what I'm saying? So, with the exception of AD, we could argue. LeBron is in the twilight. Let's not.
Right. No, without a doubt. That's why I said he's not the same. Not
Russell,
the same.
We can say Russell still got that pop to him, but he's in his twilight, man.
Yeah, like, but he had a bad playoffs. He had a bad second round playoffs. And when you look at that, you got to be like, I don't know. You know, man, it might be but the one thing which I will say is, if anybody's going to get you motivated, LeBron will.
Well, let's hope that's the case. Let's hope that's the case. I like what they did. I like the fact that they weren't scared, to pick some guys up. It's very interesting how guys are saying, listen, I'll play for $5 to play with LeBron.
Kendrick Nunn took a pay cut and a half to play there, kid. That's ring chasing. I said, listen, we're gonna come right back. I got a real question to ask you coming right back. That's going to be interesting because I want to see where you sit with it. So listen, everybody, thank you for tuning in. This is our take. Peace.